Well, meet the new financial nuclear bomb. Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon and welcome to the Prudent Money Radio Show. I'm your host, Bob Brooks. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, if you got a question for me, I invite you to go to the website. It's a resource that's been developed and put together just for you with a lot of information, a lot of things that you can contemplate and think about will help you go through that process when it comes down to getting the right plan together. And that's on all aspects of getting the right plan together. So that's all at the website, www.prudentmoney.com. You just go straight to the top of the page and you'll see a link that says Ask Prudent Money. From there, you'll click through and ask your question and be done with it. Now, one other thing that you can do while you're at the site, it's real easy to find. It's there on the front page, is the sign-up list for the newsletter list. Every time we post articles, we post shows, anything like that. So that is all there. Obviously, it's 100% free. Just go sign up for it, and we'll take good care of your email and not give it to anybody else or anything as crazy as that. That's all at the website, www.prudentmoney.com. You know, this has been an interesting, very, very interesting ride. I came back. I can't even count back to how many years when the craziness started. But we are just in a really weird place when it comes to the economy, when it comes to leadership, you name it. It's just a bizarre situation. I started in the business in 1992, and I don't think I've even included. This includes what happened in the financial crisis. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite as just crazy as things are right now. And one of the issues that does really concern me is the lack of transparency, and it seems like that they're trying to cover up anything that remotely could take them off of whatever course they think they're on. And this just when I heard this today or yesterday, I can't remember when it hit the news lines. But I got to tell you, I couldn't believe it. Now, every Friday, the first Friday of every month, we have the unemployment numbers released, and it's not just the unemployment numbers; it's a lot of different data, and it's important. It's critical information, and back last year, when they went through the government shutdown fiasco. So the big one was obviously as we talked about, was last year. And now they're having a partial shutdown, which I guess is supposed to feel better than a full shutdown, whatever it is. It is what it is, right? So the unemployment numbers back last year, they made the case that we're just going to postpone. We're not going to release any of that information because the government is shut down. And what's interesting, I immediately went and did the research. If you go back into the history of the markets, you'll find that except for last year and this year, the government has never not reported the unemployment numbers. Never. And okay, so they go through a month, I guess, or over a month of being shut down last year. And if I had to play along and all that kind of thing, I guess I understand a little bit. But this is a partial shutdown. And you guessed it. I haven't said it yet, but you guessed it. What they've done is they're not going to release these numbers. Again, they're supposed to come out this Friday. A partial shutdown that we've only known about for 3 or 4 days, and that was going to last maybe a week. Now, there's a reason why the government had in the past anyway, didn't shut down things or shut down reporting of something as crucial as understanding the unemployment situation in America. So I can get it and understand why maybe they didn't do it last year. But this year, like I said, with as small as a time period as this was, they're going to be, I'm pretty sure they're going to be reimbursed for time missed during the shutdown. So why they couldn't work to get this done? In fact, I think there was one situation back at one shutdown at some point where it looked like it was going to extend a lot longer, and they went ahead and they did what they had to do to get a number out there. And that's the thing. I don't think Wall Street's looking for perfection. I mean, if you really look at how they come up with this number, there's not much to it. It is also important to point out that it's not just the unemployment numbers that are released that one Friday out of the year. There's other important pieces of data. What that data shows us is where unemployment's going up or down. And, it could be that, I don't know, it's pure speculation at this point. It's just disturbing that they wouldn't release this and they're just quick to shut it down. That bothers me. It concerns me, being that a lot of things hang on those numbers. But that's what they're doing. That's what they decided to do, and more of the same. I don't know why it is surprising. So, but that's just definitely something that is a trend that we're seeing, and it's just something that I'd like to see reversed. But like I said, it is what it is. Now, let's talk a little bit. And the question that came in really, I think, sets the table for this conversation that I want to have with you today. And it starts off, Dear Bob, there's so much going on with the markets, geopolitically, the bond market. It is quite overwhelming. I wonder if war will be the end result. What are your thoughts? It is a very big question, obviously. I do have a lot of thoughts that I want to share with you. I'm not trying to be a gloom and doomer. I'm not trying to instill fear. Nothing like that, not even close to that. I'm just trying to keep everybody informed on what I see. And, at the end of the day, it could be, I could be completely wrong. My opinions could be way off. Wouldn't be the first time. It's just one viewpoint, and it's mine, and that's what I feel led to do, is share that with you. Do with it what you may. There's a lot of moving parts that are occurring right now, and I want to start off with and talk about what's happened to cybercrime. Not too long ago, Bitcoin was a big deal. And it continued to be a big deal for a long time. Everybody had to own it. People were buying it. It was going to make people rich, the whole thing. And classic investment bubble type design to it. And went up over $100,000 a coin, I guess is the way you'd say that. And just recently, as of October 25th, it hit a brand new high at 126,000 some change. And I don't know that people really realize this. Bitcoin has fallen from roughly 126,000 down to today at least around 74,000. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a enormous dive in Bitcoin. Something that's supposed to be stable. I hope that you see the correlation here. There's nothing stable about Bitcoin. There's nothing stable about a coin that you will never be able to, at least in the way this is set up, never be able to use as a national currency. And I think that pure speculation, in my opinion, is why so many people were buying it up. And I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, if you want my personal opinion, I think we're going to see the digital dollar. And before President Trump got so fixated on the Federal Reserve Board, I would have said the digital dollar that the Fed has worked on, and that will be the replacement currency. Then there's the stable coin. There's all kinds of potential replacements. We'll see how all of that works out. But just that has happened, and I got a point that I'm trying to make on this. And then silver, which people are very high on, lost roughly 30%, I believe it was yesterday. That it all means something. I'm going to get back to that. Right now, going to a break. This is Bob Brooks. Stick around, and I'll be right back. Hello, this is Bob Brooks. Proverbs 22:3 and Proverbs 27:12 are the exact same verse word for word. I call them the stewardship verses of risk. A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. On the Prudent Money Radio Show, we teach about risk, how to identify it, how to figure it out, and what to do about it. We believe that to be a prudent steward, you have to be a good risk manager. Listen to the Prudent Money Radio Show on Bible School Radio 91.3. Prudent Money, home of the modern-day steward movement.
Dynamic, practical, life-changing.
There's no point in going to church and not letting the Christ who gave birth to the church on the day of Pentecost change your life.
Join us each day as Pastor Paul Shepherd applies the timeless truth of Scripture to everyday life. It's Destined for Victory on this great station.
Weekday afternoons at 3:30 here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
This is Rob Randall, your host and teacher of the Invisible War radio program. The Invisible War is the study of God's Word on how to walk in Christ's victory in the spiritual battles we face against the powers of darkness. Join me every Sunday morning at 9 right here on KDKR and KYJC in Commerce, your station for life.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Listen, if you got a question for me, please go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. When you get to the website, just look up to the top of the front page. There's a link that says Ask Prudent Money. And send us your question. We'll get you taken care of. It's all at the website, www.prudentmoney.com. So we're talking about Bitcoin, how much money it's lost. We're talking about silver, how much it just lost in one day, a little over 30%. And I make a point of this is because so many investors think this type of drop, these types of declines could not happen to the stock market. But I'm here to tell you, you got to be prepared for, yes, they could happen. And like I said, it's a very out of balanced situation, and you got to be ready for just about any kind of risk. So, this comes down to investment bubbles. This comes down to the cycle, the way the cycle goes around and around, goes from a good market to incredible market, and then it turns the corner on its way down. It goes to a bear market, it goes to a horrible market, then it finds a bottom, and it starts going back up. It's been doing it since the 1800s. And there's no reason for it to stop today. The challenging thing is that these particular markets are just getting bigger, and these cycles are getting bigger. But the question comes in, what could really start a big problem in the market? What do we need to be careful about? And of course, one thing that comes up is war. Immediately, though, and it's always happens. Someone will say, war is not a big deal because we are the greatest superpower in the world. Until we have to deal with financial war. And there is the problem. Like I said, not trying to sow fear, just want to make investors and my listeners to really pay attention to this, take it seriously. Once you start to dig a little bit deeper, you start to think about how important interest rates, and this is about interest rates in a financial war, with the nuclear bomb being interest rates. But how important it is in the grand scheme of things. As geopolitical concerns mount, it is crucial to move beyond the day-to-day stories and adopt a broader perspective on global events. This shift brings greater clarity. Yet, the problem with the media coverage often remains focused on the short term, and financial reporting does not always capture the bigger picture. And I think it's so extremely important to have a feel for this. We have like I said, a war machine and a president unafraid to use it. The reality is that we also, of course, have the world's dominant military. So, this comes back to the situation with Greenland and Denmark and the fact that President Trump wants Greenland. And so the question is, do they have a chance to protect their borders and keep the United States out? I mean, you look at this and you think, it's almost as if President Trump's ready to send in the troops. Don't understand it. Doesn't make sense. If you listen to the reason for wanting to do it, it's plausible and it sort of makes sense. But just the how they're going about doing it doesn't make sense. So, to answer the question, how do they protect their borders and keep Trump out? And they use the power of interest rates. Let me tell you how that works. Let's go back to the relationship between bond prices and interest rates. We'll just use Treasury bonds as an example. Money used to, still does to an extent, just pours into the Treasury bonds and government bond markets because they are backed by the sound financial powerhouse we call the United States. And what you have to look at it from the standpoint of if I'm going to go buy a bond, I'm going to give the government my money. They're going to take my money. They're going to give me a certificate that says, you own this bond. This bond will come due in 20, 30 years, whatever it is, 10 years, and you will get paid your principal back. In the meantime, you're going to get interest. And backed by the U.S. government. So people love this type of situation. This statistic used to be a lot worse than it is today. But the statistic is today 25% of the U.S. bonds are held by foreign entities. 75% are held in the U.S. If bond prices are to go down, that means interest rates go up. And if bond prices go up, interest rates go down. So we've been looking at the central problem this entire time, which is that interest rates keep going up. So if interest rates are going up, those bond market prices are going down. And it's a problem on a lot of different levels. So that's the background. Now, President Trump wants Greenland. He's made some threatening remarks as to how that would happen. Most countries are not going to willfully give up their independence. So there's a lot at stake here playing Russian roulette. But they come up with an announcement. They meet behind closed doors. Something as big as that would be, taking over another country. They come out and they, very nonchalantly say, we've got a framework for a deal. Now that's a pattern I'm starting to see, is and that's kind of how he negotiates. And they come up with a framework, and then if it's something that, the deal kind of fell apart, then they just don't pursue it. And with all this background, I want to reference an article that after I read this piece that a friend gave me, I wanted to make sure that it was true, and I did see a lot of corresponding stories about it. But it says, in a bombshell revelation, the EU sources disclosed that Europe used U.S. debt securities, or government bonds, whatever you want to fill in there, as leverage to pressure Trump on Greenland. A Danish pension fund had started dumping these securities. I'll explain what all this means here in a second. While the EU was preparing to do the same on a larger scale aimed at undermining the U.S. economy. So they were, and I think that they already started, and they dumped like $100 million worth of government bonds. And of course, that could send interest rates through the roof and bond prices down. Could cause a huge crisis in the markets if that were to happen. And we can end up backing our interest rates and buying the bonds and doing all kinds of things. But we've never seen how far we can go with that. And it's a bad framework of any type of a deal to begin with. But it looks to me, you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, it looks to me like they spoke and they said, you do that, we're going to do this. We've already started. If you would like for us to stop, then I think you guys should pull back and let's have some discussions. That's the impression that I got. That's my only opinion. But I think that this comes down to the problem. And the problem is that, the problem is not the fact that we got the greatest military in the world. The problem is we have $38.5 trillion worth of debt. And interest rates are tied to that debt. And if we get a situation where interest rates go crazy and they go up and they continue to go up and they skyrocket, we are looking at a big problem in all facets of the economy, in the markets, you name it. So that is, I think, what we got to be keeping our eye on. And, of course, the other thing that is out there is cyber attacks. And, it seems like that you've got countries that are fighting each other every day from the standpoint of using cyber attacks and that type of thing. But this interest rate situation is something we really got to put we got to watch. And it's no different than you've got a situation with that. I don't think that Trump wants to fire a gun, fire any kind of weapons in Greenland. I think he wants to do it the best way he can take it over. Whether that's a good idea or not, I couldn't tell you. But this is nobody wants that big moment. If something goes wrong, it's going to be a real big problem. So that's what we should be considering. That's what we should keep your eye on. I'll keep you posted if I run into any other information. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith. Have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.